This is the first in a series of 3 videos that'll show you how to easily create your own videos for the purpose of documenting or troubleshooting test procedures. In this first video, I'll show you how to bring live views of your instruments onto your computer desktop. In part 2, I'll show you how to create a video recording of your computer desktop. And in part 3, I'll show you how to use what you learned in the first 2 parts as a tool to gain insight into instrument automation problems. So let's talk about a few different ways to bring your instrument displays and controls for those instruments onto your PC desktop. I'll cover a few different types of instruments here. These are mostly oscilloscopes. I also have a pulse generator here, an 81160A. I'll start with the Infiniivision scopes. These are Windows-based scopes. Now these are higher-end models, but they are pretty limited in terms of what their web interfaces will allow you to do. So you can get a screenshot, you can view instrument information, things like that, but not much you can do in terms of remoting the display from the web interface, but that's okay. You've got a couple of really good options. The one that I use all the time is Ultra VNC. You can use any VNC viewer, VNC client to do this, and it's generally very easy to do, and I'll walk you through that real quick. First thing you want to do before you establish the connection is go to the scope itself and go to the Windows desktop, and you want to look for this little icon here. If there isn't an active connection, that'll be kind of a bluish color. It looks like a little eye there. If you right click on that and go to admin properties, now some of these settings here matter, some don't. If you have all of these settings like I do here, it should work as long as you enter a password. So that's critical. You do need to enter a password for the connection to be allowed. And once you've done that, the server is listening and it's ready to create the VNC connection whenever something on the client side requests it. All right, so I'll demo that real quick. I'll go to my Ultra VNC here, right click that, open up a new viewer, and here I need to type in the IP address of the instrument I want to connect to. On the Infiniivisions, you'll find that under Utilities and then Remote, and that'll be right in this field here. Okay, so once I've entered that, I hit connect. It prompts me for a password. I enter the one that I entered on the server side, and then there's my connection. It's as easy as that. And this gives me full control. I can click through the menus and drive the instrument as if I were in front of the front panel. So another option is to establish a Windows Remote desktop connection to the PC, or to the instrument rather. And so I'll show you that quickly here. I'll bring up a separate window, and one of the things you'll notice right off the bat is you have a lot more area to work with. If you choose one of the larger resolutions for the remote desktop connection, you can get a lot more area to work with than you do from the front panel of the instrument itself. So here I've got a lot going on, a couple of waveforms here, a lot of these jitter plots, a lot of measurements down below, a whole lot going on. It's not too terribly cramped because I've got some more area to work with, and I still have room left over on the side here to bring up other things like compliance test applications, for example. So if I wanted to run a compliance test or maybe look through my results and discuss those or whatever I might want to do, that's very easy to do with all this extra space. And so the way that you would do this is twofold. So first on the server side, the instrument that you want to connect to, I'll show you on this guy here. You would go to your start menu, find your computer here, right click on that, go to properties, and then go to remote settings. And you want this guy checked here, allow connections from computers running any version of remote desktop. Or, of course, the bottom option, you might want to choose that. I'll actually just stick with that one there. And that usually works just fine, that second option that's more secure. So and that's all you need to do on the instrument itself that you want to connect to. And from the computer you're going to connect from, so you would go to your start menu on that. You would go to remote desktop. Usually if you just type in remote here in the search box, it'll pop up at the top. And there again, it'll prompt me for the IP address. And I'm not going to actually connect. I don't want to cause problems with everything going on here, but This will give you an idea of how it works. So you'll notice I clicked on Show Options. That exposes some additional fields here. My username, that's going to be the same login that I used from the front panel. And I have the option to save this, so I don't have to retype in all of this in the future. And for the Display tab, I've got that at 1920 by 1080. That's what gave me the very large display. I could have also chosen something much smaller. So you can choose whatever you like there. Color depth options and so on. Okay, so I won't actually connect, but that's how you would do it. It is fairly straightforward. So let's talk a little bit about the next instrument here on tab number 3. This is more of a full-featured web interface for the Infiniivision-X series. You'll notice I have a browser web control option here, and that gives me access to 3 different styles of remote front panel. And I'll show you the full remote front panel, which I have somewhere here. I thought I did. Let me bring it up again. So I'll click that. It'll bring up my virtual front panel. And as you can see, this is pretty much a replica of the actual front panel. And I can do all sorts of things here. I can take full control of the instrument. Once again, click on all the knobs and buttons. And that's that. It's a very nice interface. Now this does rely on Java, and some of the modern web browsers such as Google Chrome, they're phasing out support for Java. Firefox at this point still works. I think Internet Explorer probably works too. Haven't tried it lately, but Firefox is working well in general for these remote interfaces. And then lastly, we have my generator here, and this is one of the nice things about bringing all these instrument views together on one screen is you can see the interactions between all this equipment. So I have 2 outputs on this generator. One, they're both producing the same signal. One's going to this older scope here in the lower left, and the other's going to my Infinium in the upper right. And so I can make changes here. I'll turn that output off. You can see it turns off. I can these channels are coupled together. If I make changes on one, it'll change both of them. So I can choose different waveform types, turn on and off modulation, do a sweep. I can change the frequency. So you get the idea. Anything I might want to do, I can pretty much do here. All right, and lastly, I want to mention the other option for instruments that may not have a LAN interface or no ability to remote their display in a modern way. So you can always use a webcam. If it's maybe an old analog scope that's 30 years old, no problem. This one isn't that old, but it's old enough to not be able to remote its display. So I just put a webcam on it. You can see clearly enough what's happening on screen. Lighting can be an issue, a little more difficult to set up than this here that always looks perfect, but webcam's a great tool to have, and you can also show your physical setups, your probing setups, and so on, which is also handy, of course.